In the 5th year of our engagement, my childhood sweetheart Meng Zhao still refused to marry me. He complained I was timid and prone to tears. Complained I was too alluring. Complained that when I washed silk by the stream, the way I wiped my sweat could mesmerize a whole group of his colleagues. Just wait. Maybe I'll change my mind next year. When I was foolishly about to wait for the 6th year, it was Meng Zhao's direct superior, Lord Shen, who couldn't stand watching anymore and kindly advised him. With no one to rely on, how can such a little woman survive? Just marry her already, consider it helping her out. But just as the wedding date approached, Meng Zhao faked his death and fled the marriage. Without a man, local ruffians often harassed me, and vagrants would knock on my door from time to time. Alas, life is so hard for a little woman, so in the misty twilight of an autumn evening, I carried a horn lantern, mustered my courage, and knocked on Lord Shen's door, saying cautiously, my lord, please help this little woman once more." The candlelight was dim, no one answered, and the door was ajar. I stood on tiptoe and saw a portrait spread out on Lord Shen's table. It seemed to depict a woman washing silk by a stream. It looked very familiar to me, but before I could look closely, I turned around and bumped right into Lord Shen Shenhanian. He had just been bathing, and must have rushed over upon hearing his servant's report. Water was still dripping from the hair on his forehead. I don't know who was in the painting, but the usually composed Lord Shen hurried his steps, even disregarding etiquette, hastily rolling up the scroll and hiding it behind his back. Seeing me craning my neck curiously, Lord Shen cleared his throat lightly. Ahem. The night is deep, and the dew is heavy. Why has Miss Aruo come here? When Lord Shen mentioned this, my eyes reddened again. 3 months ago, my fiancé went missing. I was so anxious I kept shedding tears, begging Meng Zhao's good brothers to inquire in Suzhou, only to find out that Meng Zhao's small boat had encountered river bandits, and his whereabouts were unknown. His brothers all urged me to burn the marriage contract and remarry early. I wiped my eyes that hurt from crying and tried hard to pull myself together. I sold my jewelry and pawned my winter cotton clothes, wanting to go to Suzhou to bring Meng Zhao back for a proper burial. Seeing that I wanted to go to Suzhou, Meng Zhao's brothers became anxious again, saying, "How can you, a mere woman, be so stubborn? Meng Zhao was buried in the bellies of fish. His bones cannot be found in the vast rivers and seas. Just set up a cenotaph for him and bury it with your marriage contract. It is the same." Without seeing Meng Zhao's remains, I refused to give up hope, and sleeplessly made 100 lotus lanterns for the ghost festival, praying for his safe return. But after Meng Zhao went missing, it is hard for a mere woman to live a good life. These days, asking others to handle matters and spending quite a lot on spirit writing and prayers, life has become tight. Selling wine at the daytime market, some ill-intentioned lecher would cop a feel on my hand. At midnight someone knocked on my door, and I was so scared I hid under the table, clutching a cleaver while tears fell. Until today when I came home, I found the lock had been pried open. 2 years ago I came to Huizhou to seek refuge with Meng Zhao, and here I am a stranger with no connections. Now with nowhere to turn. The only person I could think of was Lord Shen Hanian, who had once pleaded on my behalf. Meng Zhao also respected Lord Shen the most first, as a junior grateful for his recognition and guidance, and second, admiring his upright and noble character. In private, he often sighed with his brothers about not knowing how to repay Lord Shen's kindness. The lights inside the room were bright and clear, bringing peace to one's heart. "I just returned to Huizhou yesterday. Has Miss Aru run into some trouble, or has Meng Zhao been bullying you again?" Holding the teacup, with steam swirling around, I couldn't speak. As I lowered my head, big teardrops fell down again. Meng Zhao hated it most when I cried. The moment my eyes turned red, he'd lose all patience. Afraid Lord Shen would also find it annoying, I hurriedly reached up to wipe my tears. But the grievances and exhaustion of these days welled up in my heart, and the more I wiped, the more tears flowed. Lord Shen just smiled gently. How come Aru's cup of tea keeps getting fuller? I broke into laughter through my tears, blowing a snot bubble. It was hard on Lord Shen, too, clearly handing me a handkerchief, yet turning his head away pretending not to see. Then let me guess. If I guess right, Aruo can just nod. Arua's crying so sadly, you must have suffered a lot of grievances. I nodded. It is not Meng Zhao, but it is also because of Meng Zhao. Under the lamp, I sipped the hot tea little by little, only then realizing there were so many sad things. Meng Zhao's accidental drowning was the saddest thing. The rest was being bullied these 3 months. The pawnshop owner lowballing prices. The spirit-riding woman scamming money. Being groped and harassed in broad daylight. And knocking on doors and picking locks at night. The raw bamboo frames for the lotus lanterns had fine, dense little thorns, and the wounds they pricked on my hands stung to the core when touched by alcohol. The wedding dress I embroidered myself was so beautiful. I never got a chance to wear it. And when I pawned it, my heart ached as if someone was tugging at it. Lord Shen had plenty of patience, and plenty of handkerchiefs enough to listen to me tell everything one by one. Enough for me to use one after another to wipe my tears. When the moon rose above the treetops, the listener was still attentive, but the speaker was getting drowsy. I'll have someone tidy up the courtyard in the back. Aruo should rest tonight first, and we'll resolve those sad matters one by one tomorrow, all right. I felt truly guilty inside. I am sorry, Lord Shen, for causing you so much trouble. But these 3 months I was so tired and scared. I really hadn't slept well even once. Does Lord Shen have any sad things? If you do, after I wake up tomorrow, I can listen to you talk about them too. Hearing me ask this, Lord Shen was also stunned. The hand holding the scroll suddenly tightened. He lowered his eyes and smiled rather wistfully. Yes, I do have someone I love. I recalled what Meng Zhao and the others had said before. Lord Shen had someone he loved, but she had been betrothed to another long ago. Lord Shen had waited until now, still unmarried. Then the painting he hurriedly hid just now was probably of that girl, lying on the table too sleepy to keep my eyes open. My mind was like a pot of overcooked sticky porridge, unable to think clearly. Does she know you like her? Who is she? She doesn't know. She even asked me who my sweetheart is. Sigh. What a silly girl. Mentioning her, Lord Shen couldn't help but curve his lips and said with a smile. She is a silly girl. Brother Meng, this little childhood sweetheart of yours looks so delicate and fragile. How can she be so stubborn? In Mingyue Tower in Sioux City, Zhao Qin let out a long breath reeking of alcohol. Feeling quite emotional. To help you trick that marriage certificate into your hands, we brothers have done everything we could. We first told that young lady your whereabouts were unknown and urged her to remarry quickly, but she didn't say anything and just kept crying. She cried for 3 days, came to find me with eyes swollen like peaches. We thought she had come around, but who knew she had sold her jewelry, dressed in white mourning clothes, wanting to come to Suzhou to collect your bones and bring you home. How could I let her come here? I just told her you'd been buried in a fish's belly, had her set up a cenotaph, and put the marriage certificate in it, that'd be that. But guess what happened? This cliffhanger made the singing girls stop their pipas, and the young masters also leaned forward with eyes full of interest. Meng Zhao laughingly threw a handful of dried honey dates at Zhao Qin. Hurry up and tell us. Zhao Qin dodged with a grin, then deliberately put on a cold face and pretended to be very serious. Hold on, brother Meng Zhao. At this point, this brother has to call you out. You don't know how heartbroken your little lady was when she heard you died, wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink. Her waist got thinner by another size. It is true that a woman in mourning looks 3 parts prettier. Even thin, she looked like a sickly shishi. When she cried and begged me, I almost went soft. I was thinking, brother Meng Zhao, is your heart made of stone? A dancer who was always bold and clever got curious, and watching Meng Zhao's expression, asked Lord Meng, if you don't want to marry her, just drive her away and be done with it, save yourself the trouble. Why, actually? Dragging this out for years without getting married, saying he found her too coquettish, too weepy. Those were all excuses. It wasn't that he didn't want to marry her. It was that now, having climbed to a high position in the officialdom, he always felt that a wine-selling girl who came 1,000 miles to marry him was most likely after wealth and status, and might not be truly sincere. I want to test her. If she learns of my death and is still willing to observe a year of widowhood for me, then I'll believe her sincerity and naturally marry her when I return. Aren't you afraid of messing this up, Brother Meng? What if the young lady gets mad at you? What if she runs off with another man? Meng Zhao chuckled lightly, completely confident. She won't. They had been childhood sweethearts for 13 years now, and Zhang Ruo had eyes only for him. Zhang Ruo cried so hard when she heard of his death. If he came back alive, she would surely weep with joy. How could she possibly still be angry with him? Even if she really got mad, he'd apologize and admit his mistake. At worst, he'd let her punch him a couple times to vent. Besides, Zhang Ruo had always been good-tempered and never held grudges over anything. As for other men, that was even more impossible. In terms of family background, official position, and looks, he, Meng Zhao, dared say that apart from Senior Shen Henian, there wasn't a second man better than him in all of Huizhou. Even if she doesn't run off with someone, I am still worried she might not think it through. What if she takes her own life to die for love? Then your sin would be great, Brother Meng. Meng Zhao toyed with a wine cup in his hand. Hearing Zhao Qin's words, his eyes wavered slightly, but he still smiled. Zhang Ruo won't kill herself. She is most afraid of pain. Pa, she is not afraid of pain at all. Zhao Qin mysteriously waved his hand and pulled out a small lotus lantern from behind him. The young lady made this for you. I secretly swiped one when she wasn't paying attention. The Peepa girl gazed at the delicate and exquisite lotus lantern, unable to resist the urge to reach out. Hey, little beauty, don't touch it. The bamboo splinters on it will prick your hands. If your hands hurt so much you can't play the Peepa, don't blame this big brother for not warning you. The lotus lantern before his eyes suddenly stirred old memories. Meng Zhao remembered that the day his mother died was the ghost festival. No one remembered the young concubine of the Meng household who had drowned herself. Only 10-year-old Zhang Ruo had held his hand and secretly crawled out through the dog hole in the mansion. It had rained the day before. Her face and hands were all dirty. Yet the river lantern she protected in her arms remained spotlessly clean. That was a saying from their hometown: those who drowned could not reach the shore. But if a family member released a river lantern for the departed soul in the water, they could cross the river of oblivion and return home to see the living. Jiang Ru was timid and afraid of the dark, and on the way back she kept being scared to tears by the howling wind. And the 13-year-old Meng Zhao had not yet grown to despise Jiang Ru. He always carefully wiped her tears with his clean sleeve cuffs. After finally coaxing her tears into laughter, Meng Zhao took Jiang Ru's hand again. In the muddy ground under the stars, two small figures leaned on each other, their footsteps uneven as they walked back. Under the lamplight, Meng Zhao picked up that lotus lantern and also fell silent for a long while. It wasn't quality bamboo. His little finger was accidentally pricked by a tiny bamboo splinter. The fingers are connected to the heart. The pain made him furrow his brow. Meng Zhao thought wishfully. Perhaps Zhang Ruo only made 7 or 8. She made 100 lanterns like this. I told her not to. But she said she was afraid you'd be unfamiliar with Suzhou and get lost, unable to find your way home. Meng Zhao fell silent. The next day, she was back selling wine at the counter again. I couldn't bear to look at her hands. Does she have no money? Why did she go back to selling wine? Meng Zhao didn't even notice the urgency in his own words. Brother Meng has truly become so wealthy that he has forgotten the hardships of common folk. Doesn't it cost money to hire people to ask around and to buy incense paper and lamp oil? To hire monks to chant sutras for salvation. The money from her jewelry still wasn't quite enough. She sat at the pawn shop entrance for a long time, holding the wedding dress she had embroidered herself, crying from heartache. But that shopkeeper took advantage of her and pushed the price down very low. Before the words had even finished, the young men were already laughing so hard they rocked back and forth, praising Meng Zhao for his great prowess. But the singing girls couldn't laugh anymore. They lowered their heads and silently plucked their pipas, feeling sad for another woman's misplaced devotion. A sycophant who entertained guests with jokes and flattery, afraid the singing girls would dampen the mood, hurriedly said with a grin. Right, that young lady is truly devoted to Lord Meng. I sent a few vagrants to knock on her door in the middle of the night to scare her. There was no response for a long time, and when I peeked through the window, the young lady was hiding under the table. You'd call her fierce, but she was crying. You'd call her weak, but she was clutching a knife. Before his words had even landed, the teacup by Meng Zhao's hand had already smashed into that young master's face, leaving him with a bleeding head. Everyone stood up in shock, looking at the gloomy-faced Meng Zhao with fear and trepidation, not daring to make a sound. The only sounds in the room were tea and blood dripping onto the carpet. The young master knelt there trembling, not daring to reach up and wipe it off. He didn't understand why Meng Zhao had gotten so angry after all. Everyone had been making fun of that young lady. But the next moment, Meng Zhao threw a heavy money pouch at his face, a reward for your tea. Meng Zhao hadn't called an end to this banquet, so no one dared to leave. Play. Why'd you stop playing? This piece was Autumn Moon over the Han Palace. Usually listening to it would ease Meng Zhao's mood. How come now, listening to it, he felt uncomfortable all over? Keep talking. Where were you? The young men who usually talked big now looked at each other awkwardly. The musician hit a wrong note and, panicking, knelt on the ground kowtowing. Meng Zhao rubbed between his brows in irritation. Scram. All of you, scram. Everyone fled as if granted amnesty, scrambling and crawling their way out. Outside Mingyue Pavilion, the lights blazed bright. The clamor as if it would never sleep. Inside the room, cups and plates lay in disarray, the floor covered with cold leftovers and stale wine. Meng Zhao lay on his back on the couch, the room so quiet that even his own heartbeat felt annoyingly loud. He figured he must have drunk too much today. Otherwise, why would his head start aching? When the wind blew up the red gauze curtains filling half the room, they actually looked like the red bridal veil Zhang Ruo had embroidered. His heart pounding. He felt like a groom, drunkenly wanting to lift the veil. But when the wind stopped, he only grasped at empty air, with only the silent stars across the sky laughing at his foolishness. Hearing footsteps, Meng Zhao didn't even raise his head, jokingly lifting his cup. Why haven't you left? Want to have a few drinks with me? Seeing Zhao Qin ignore him, Meng Zhao waved his hand, pretending not to care. Stop keeping me in suspense. Just tell me, did she give you the marriage certificate in the end? No, Miss Jiang Ruo said she would keep waiting for you to come back and marry her. If she can't wait for you in this life, she'll take the marriage certificate to her coffin and keep waiting in the next life. Meng Zhao fell silent, even his wine cup frozen in mid-air, forcing a nonchalant smile. Is that so? Thinking of that girl who stared blankly at the river lanterns with tears falling, Zhao Qin suddenly felt it wasn't worth it for her. Ah Zhao, take a brother's advice. Go back and humble yourself to apologize, don't let yourself regret it for a lifetime. She really is a very, very foolish girl. These past few days Lord Shen has been swamped with official duties, and several times when I wanted to thank him personally, I couldn't find him. I only learned from the attendants that Lord Shen had arrested the troublemaking vagrants and would be trying them the day after tomorrow. I feel quite embarrassed for troubling Lord Shen like this. So this day I got up very early, wanting to help him out a bit. I wanted to make soup, but the cook snatched the rice from my hands. Miss has a wound on her hand. Don't get it wet. I wanted to sweep the floor, but the maid hurriedly ran over and grabbed the broom, saying with a smile, Miss has a wound on her hand. How could we let you do such things? The entire Shen household was bustling with tidying up. Seeing me at a loss, the sweeping maid Xiao Tao whispered, It is not that we won't let Miss help. It is that old Master Shen is coming. Aya, speaking of old Master Shen, not just us servants. Even Lord Shen gets a headache. Just as she was speaking, a fragrant breeze wafted from outside the corridor. A group of matchmakers dressed in bright reds and greens carrying portraits, closely following behind Lord Shen and chattering endlessly. Lord Shen, your father has said that the Shen family's daughter-in-law must first be beautiful, second have good character, and third have a noble destiny. Lord Shen, please don't make things difficult for us. It is all your father's wishes. You must look through these ladies' portraits before we can call it done. That old matchmaker with a mole by her lip, tightly gripping Lord Shen's sleeve. I recognized her. Folks called her Granny Lu San. Back when I was selling wine at the tavern, I'd heard women complain about her, saying things like the young master fell for her at first sight, carried her home in an 8-man palanquin, only to find the bride had one eye. They said the young master was honest and never visited pleasure houses. Well, turns out he is a cripple who doesn't visit pleasure houses because he has people carry him to the prostitutes' beds. Aunt's Granny Lu San took the silver. She'd cling on like a leech that smelled blood. As for being beaten at dawn and cursed at dusk after marrying off, or the household turning into chaos after the bride entered, she couldn't care less. She'd even say a wife is shaped by beatings like dough is needed, and what young couple doesn't bicker. Shen Henian had quite a headache, but couldn't really push and shove with the old matchmaker women. When he suddenly saw me coming over, he hurriedly shot me a pleading look. I knew Shen Henian already had someone in his heart and would never marry another. I hadn't helped with cooking or cleaning. So how could I not help with this small favor now? I hurriedly pushed aside the matchmakers and stood in front of Lord Shen like a hen protecting her chicks. Don't bother. Lord Shen already has someone in his heart. Granny Lu San looked me up and down suspiciously. Oh, then tell us who it is. It is. Who is it? I pretended to be calm and turned back to glance at Shen Hanian. Lord Shen, hurry up and say something. It is her. Lord Shen had a flash of inspiration in his panic, suddenly pointing at me, his eyes full of certainty. Yes, it is her. I was stunned for a moment, but quickly caught on. As expected of Lord Shen, his mind really worked fast. I nodded approvingly and raised my chin. That is right. Lord Shen's sweetheart is me. So you don't need to worry about Lord Shen's marriage. Matchmaker Lu San's eyes rolled around as she looked me up and down, then sneered. Don't try to fool me. I know you are called Zhang Lord Meng's fiancé. How is it that Lord Meng's body is barely cold, and you've already become Lord Shen's sweetheart? Lord Shen, please say something. I fell in love with her at first sight 5 years ago. I am despicable coveting my subordinate's fiancé. Is that not allowed? Seeing the matchmaker dumbfounded, Shen Henian suddenly straightened his back and spoke with conviction. Is she not beautiful? That matchmaker Liu looked at my face and reluctantly nodded. Her fiancé passed away, and though she hadn't married into the family yet, she dutifully handled his funeral. Is her character not good? Matchmaker Liu was about to shut her mouth when she suddenly thought of something, but she jinxed her husband's family to death before even marrying in. She has got a husband jinxing fate after all. Her destiny is bad. This suddenly struck a nerve in me. My eyes stung and tears were about to fall again, but Lord Shen shielded me behind him, his face turning cold as he retorted. That is because her fate is too noble for the Meng family to handle. How dare ordinary branches invite a phoenix to perch upon them? Matchmaker Lu San wanted to say more, but seeing Shen Hanian's expression, she grumbled under her breath, put down the portrait, glanced at me, and left reluctantly. I lowered my head, and a handkerchief was suddenly offered before me. I told my father long ago that I wouldn't take a wife. I wonder how much matchmaker's father promised, for them to pester so relentlessly. If Aru weren't here, I really wouldn't know how to get away. So to thank Aru, let's go redeem that wedding dress together today. When Lord Shen mentioned that wedding dress, My heart surged with joy, and I raised my head to look at him, really. When he lowered his head to look at me, his eyes were full of smiles and a tiny reflection of me, really. I don't know why. But even though Lord Shen was smiling so gently before me, he somehow looked like a cunning fox. No, Lord Shen is refined and elegant like jade. If he were to resemble anything, it would be a tall, straight paulownia tree with clean branches, lush and verdant, patiently taking root and sprouting, selecting the most vigorous bough, waiting for a little phoenix to come perch. I hurriedly rubbed my eyes hard. I am so terrible. How could I think of Lord Shen like that? By the time we headed back, it was getting late, and fine threads of rain were drifting from the sky. I happily held the wedding dress close to my chest, growing fonder of it the more I looked. Lord Shen's umbrella kept tilting more and more toward my head. Aru would surely look beautiful wearing it. Thinking of Meng Zhao, I sadly lowered my eyes and shook my head. The day news of Meng Zhao's death came. I had already sworn I would never wear a wedding dress again. Memories drifted into my eyes along with the cold rain, the past cutting at my heart like a slow death by 1,000 cuts, the pain leaving me in a daze. When Meng Zhao and I got engaged, Meng Zhao's mother was still the most favored concubine. She and my mother were close friends from their maiden days. Pitying my family's misfortune and fearing the wolf-like relatives of the Zhang family, she took me into the Meng household to care for and raise me, and arranged the engagement between me and Meng Zhao. She and Meng Zhao both treated me very well. Back then, Meng Zhao would never make me wait, and couldn't bear to see me shed a single tear. Freshly baked pastries, seasonal fruits and fresh seafood, he would always bring them to coax me into smiling. Thinking about it now, it was probably because Meng Zhao always came to coax me that I developed the habit of crying easily. But later, Meng Zhao's mother and his father grew apart, and in despair she threw herself into the well. I'll never forget that day was the Ghost Festival, and Meng Zhao hadn't come back from school yet. Meng Zhao's mother crouched down and asked me with a beaming smile, "Little Ruo, has Auntie been good to you?" I nodded blankly. "Then will you help Auntie take good care of Brother Zhao and not leave him alone in this world?" "Okay." She smiled and touched my cheek, telling me to go to the back kitchen to watch over the sweet cake she was steaming, and wait for Meng Zhao to come back so we could eat together. I was only 8 that year, and couldn't read the surging sorrow beneath her calm smile. After that, life became very hard for Meng Zhao and me, but luckily because of my outstanding looks, I started selling wine at the greenhouse when I was 13. So even though life was hard, with my income, we didn't always have to go hungry. At first, when he passed by the greenhouse on his way to school, he would still say a few words to me. But the more books he read, the less willing he became to acknowledge me. "Meng Zhao, I know you look down on me, thinking I embarrass you by selling wine at the tavern. It is okay if you don't want to marry me. I won't be angry with you. I can keep waiting, even for a lifetime. Because I promised Nyang Nyang not to let you be alone in this world. Because I remember the old Meng Zhao, who treated me so very well. But how could you suddenly leave me all alone?" After using up Lord Shen's 7th handkerchief, I lowered my head in embarrassment. "Tell me more about that sweetheart of yours, so we don't give ourselves away when we go back. As long as you and your sweetheart don't mind, I can be your shield for a lifetime." Shen Henian didn't mention that girl, just smiled and said, "She is a crybaby just like you, so we won't give ourselves away." What a coincidence then. I am afraid one of us will never marry out, and one will never take a wife. The loneliness and tenderness in Lord Shen's eyes made my heart ache. In that moment, I truly prayed to the heavens. If there truly is a God of marriage, please have pity on him. I am willing to give him my own useless red thread. Praying that there could be a way to have it all in this world, so that girl wouldn't be heartbroken, and Lord Shen wouldn't be sorrowful. When we returned to the manor, the lights were bright, yet the inside was quiet. The moment Lord Shen stepped through the door, he heard the sound of a teacup being slammed heavily on the table, accompanied by an angry rebuke. Outrageous, knowing I was returning today, yet still loitering outside. And there was Granny Lu San's instigating voice from the side. It is all that widow Zhang's fault. I don't know what kind of spell she cast on Lord Shen, but she has bewitched him into going out all the time. I saw they went to the market today. Surely she egged Master Shen on to buy her jewelry and clothes again. Holding the wedding dress in my arms, I felt somewhat at a loss. Master Shen looked at me, gesturing for me to be at ease. He would handle everything. Father, your letter said you'd arrive tomorrow. So how can you blame others for negligence when you took a fast boat yourself? So this is that sweetheart of yours. I'd say she is just... Old Master Shen let out a cold snort, raising his head about to scold, when he suddenly caught sight of me with reddened eyes beside him and froze. Ahem. She is quite lovely indeed. Granny Lu San became anxious. She jinxed her former husband to death. The dirt on his grave hasn't even gone cold yet. Didn't that just mean she gave the man a proper burial? Thinking of this, old Master Shen suddenly felt a bit uncertain too, and turned to ask Shen Henian, "Is my son's fate strong enough?" Shen Henian nodded with a smile. "Then there is no problem. My son's fate is strong, he can withstand it. She is just a wine seller, showing her face in public all day long. I've inquired about everything, back then to sell wine. She would close the door and let men rest their heads on her lap while drinking. It wasn't like that. That was a minor constable who got injured while catching thieves. He couldn't be exposed to the wind, so Miss Aruo lowered the bamboo curtain to bandage him. She wasn't trying to hide from anyone. Shen Henian, how did he know? Before Granny Lu San could say another word, Shen Henian had already signaled the maidservant to gag her and throw her out. When old Master Shen saw the red dress in my arms, he was overjoyed. Good, get married soon, and your mother can rest easy in the afterlife. I finally thought I had muddled through and let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly old Master Shen turned around, nodding with considerable admiration. I've seen the painting you hid in the study. It is really quite good. Your painting skills have improved. It really looks exactly like her. What painting? Looks exactly like me. When that painting of a woman washing silk by the stream was spread out on the table, all the riddles of these past days became crystal clear. The lamplight blazed bright, my cheeks burned so hot they were scalding. I didn't even dare to look up at Lord Shen. The minor constable you saved is named Zhao Qin. He was the one who told me about you. Zhao Qin had praised me profusely to Lord Shen, swearing he would play matchmaker for the two of us. He said when you were bandaging him, you were so scared you were crying. But your hands never faltered. He said he wanted to repay you for saving his life by finding you an excellent marriage match. Back then I hadn't seen you yet, but I already started looking forward to meeting you. Later, the first time I saw you, you were washing silk by the stream. I wanted to say something to you, using whether the summer water was cold as an excuse. You were busy happily chasing after Meng Zhao, and even though his words were cold, your eyes were filled with shyness. Only after asking around did I learn you were Meng Zhao's fiancé. Strange to say, clearly your engagement with him came first. Yet every time I saw you following behind him and he refused to marry you, it felt as if he had stolen my beloved. But I don't understand. Then why did you still persuade Meng Zhao to marry me? I thought him blind, yet also hated him for being blind. I wanted him to treat you well, yet also wanted him to treat you badly. His eyes remained gentle. In the end, I still hoped Aruo would be happy. Besides being moved, my heart also held guilt for stirring his feelings, yet being unable to respond. I am sorry, Lord Shen. I cannot extricate myself from the news of Meng Zhao's death right now to respond to your feelings. Aru need not apologize. Liking you is something I do willingly. It is not something you owe me. The one who should apologize is me. I am not the upright and honorable Lord Shen that Aruo imagines. Aruo trusts me so much, yet I harbor many shameful thoughts. Until the moon rose above the treetops, I tossed and turned, still unable to sleep, my cheeks burning as if on fire. Finally managing to calm down, I turned over and saw the lamp in Lord Shen's room next door still lit, and my body burned as if on fire again. When the sky just started showing the pale white of dawn, I dragged my heavy body and hurriedly fled. These past few days I asked Lord Shen for help. The door lock at home has already been fixed, and even the walls have been repaired. Surely I won't be so scared at midnight that I cry anymore. In a couple of days, those vagrants will be put on trial. Surely no one will dare bully me anymore. I already said I won't wear that wedding dress again. Surely there won't be any reason to see Lord Shen Henian anymore. When my mind was troubled, I thought of Meng Zhao. I wanted to ask him. I sat by Meng Zhao's grave and plucked a wild chrysanthemum to divine. If it is an odd number, then the thing with Lord Shen, I'll think about it more. If it is an even number, I won't think about it anymore and properly remain a widow for Meng Zhao. When I counted to an even number, only a lonely bare stem was left. Does the stem count? When the dawn light was faint, before I could decide whether it counted or not, someone embraced me entirely from behind, like holding a lost and found treasure. He seemed to have traveled a long way, so his nose and lips pressed against the back of my neck were cold. Aruo, I am back. It was actually Meng Zhao. I stared at him blankly, as if in a dream. Seeing me frozen, Meng Zhao smiled and cupped my face, gently pecking my cheek. What is wrong, Aruo? I came back safely. Are you so happy you've gone silly? I don't know why, but seeing him return, I didn't feel the overwhelming joy I had expected. Could it be like he said, that I was so happy I'd gone silly? Having not slept all night, cold wind hitting my warm body, I seemed to have caught a cold, my head and body both feeling woozy. I let Meng Zhao pull me home so fast my feet barely touched the ground. Let him take my hand with heartache and carefully examine the wound. Let him say with eyes full of smiles that the wedding date was set for 5 days later. Meng Zhao was absorbed in his own joy of taking a bride, and didn't even notice the low fever I had hazily developed. When I fell ill, I had no energy left to think about many things. Like, how did he know the cenotaph was here? How did he know about the wound on my hand? Unlike the stalling and excuses of these 5 years, Meng Zhao seemed unwilling to delay even a single day. And before I could think it through or ask clearly, I was already being ushered off to become Meng Zhao's bride. I couldn't say what was wrong, only felt that nothing suited my heart. The pattern on this bridal veil was too gaudy. The stitching on these shoes was too coarse. Meng Zhao showed not the slightest impatience, spending handfuls of silver, always managing to leave me with nothing more to complain about. On the day I married out, the weather was overcast. I kept thinking about Lord Shen. I just left like this. Would Granny Lu laugh at him? No. How would Granny Lu dare to mock Lord Shen? Would old Master Shen be angry at him for deceiving himself? No. How could a father and son hold an overnight grudge? Through the hazy bridal veil, I counted that the dragon and phoenix wedding candles on the table were an even number. The teeth of the white hair comb, the prongs of the ruyi hairpin were an even number. Even the tassels on the bridal veil are in even numbers, leaving me without a single excuse. When the firecrackers sounded outside, winter snow also fell rustling down. I treasure this wedding dress the most, and the snow would get it wet, so today is not suitable for marriage. I tore off the veil, removed the phoenix crown, lifted my skirt, and ran away from the wedding. Everyone inside was busy looking for me, already in complete chaos. Seeing everyone heading toward the backyard, I panicked with nowhere to escape, when suddenly I heard a voice from behind the wall. Miss Aruo, over here. It was Zhao Qin. He pulled me over the courtyard wall and onto a carriage. He asked where I wanted to go, and I thought about it for a while. Going home would inevitably lead to Meng Zhao finding me, and I couldn't trouble Lord Shen again either. It is all this snow's fault for throwing my mind into disarray, leaving me not knowing where to go. I leaned in the corner, and Zhao Qin noticed the sickly pallor and exhaustion on my face, gently giving the horse a whip. Then Miss Aruo, just rest a bit, and let it run wherever it may. Along the way through wind and snow, Zhao Qin apologized to me and told me many things. The things Meng Zhao had been hiding from me these days. He said Meng Zhao originally didn't want to marry me, wanting to use the fake death to get back the marriage certificate, and test my true feelings along the way. Seeing that I really loved him and passed his test, only then did he change his mind and decide to marry me. when my head was dizzy and heavy. I didn't even have the strength to be angry at Meng Zhao anymore. Perhaps even the horse couldn't bear to listen anymore, insisting on going to the Shen residence to shelter from the wind and snow. When the snow was pouring on my head, I saw Lord Shen sitting in his study watching the snow. He was so ill that even the corners of his eyes were red. When he looked at me, he was also dazed for a moment, then smiled bitterly and asked the medicine boy beside him, "Am I about to die, that I am seeing a Ruo coming to find me?" With an extra sick person, the entire Shen household reeked of medicine. Finally, during the heavy snow on the third day, Shen Henian and I broke our fevers. Only then did I learn that when I secretly left at dawn that day, Shen Henian was worried about my safety and hurriedly followed behind without even time to put on his outer robe. That is how the early winter chill struck him, and he caught a cold. On the fourth day the snow still hadn't stopped. Just as we were recovering from our illness, Meng Zhao came to the door. "Zhang Ruo, come back with me." Meng Zhao had never shown me this much patience. On any other day, he would have already flown into a rage. "I've already heard from others. During the days I was away, you've been troubling Lord Shen. You and I will apologize to Lord Shen. Since you don't like snowy days, we'll go back and pick another good day to get married." He tried to take my hand and I instinctively stepped back. Meng Zhao furrowed his brows. "Zhang Ruo, come here." I refused. Meng Zhao's face was full of disbelief. "Could it be that in these 3 months, someone gave you a little sweetness and you've already fallen for someone else?" I held back the grievance in my heart and the tears threatening to spill. "Meng Zhao, you still haven't apologized to me." Caught off guard by my retort, Meng Zhao was stunned. "Apologize for what? You ran away from the wedding and hid here. Wasn't it all for him?" "No, it is not. I am not so fickle that I'd fall for someone else just because they said they like me. I am not the type to immediately find another backer just because I stumbled with you. It was you who lied to me, yet didn't care at all whether I'd be angry. It was you who was busy preparing the wedding, yet never asked if I still wanted to marry you. It was you who chased after me, angry thinking I'd found a backer, yet never asked me. Asked how much I'd suffered during those days you were gone. Asked if I was still feeling unwell after being sick these past few days. You didn't ask anything." I lowered my head and wiped away another handful of tears. "It has nothing to do with anyone else, I just don't want to marry you anymore. Jiang Ru is just a small woman, without much ability. Only a bit of stubborn temper. I am fleeing this marriage not for anyone else, but for my eyes swollen from crying these 3 months. For my broken heart that isn't worth it. Meng Zhao, when Aru and I both thought you had drowned in Suzhou, I once asked her, tested her feelings. In terms of family background and feelings for Aruo, I believe I am no less than you. But she didn't want me. She said she'd sell wine for a few more years, save enough money, then move to Suzhou. She was afraid you'd be too lonely there alone. So what if she moved on to someone else? You are the one who made her suffer so much. You are the one who left her with no way out. You are the one who pushed her toward me first." As Lord Shen spoke of these things, I didn't make a sound, just shed tears in sorrow. Meng Zhao anxiously wanted to wipe my tears, but couldn't find a single handkerchief. "If you care about me so much, why won't you?" "Because that wasn't a marriage. That was a reward you bestowed from on high, self-righteous and condescending." But Lord Shen, it was the handkerchiefs he offered me. It was the justice he sought on my behalf that made me realize you hadn't actually been good to me all these years. "Ah Zhao, you haven't been good to me. I don't want to marry you anymore." Amidst the sky full of heavy snow, I handed the marriage certificate to Meng Zhao. Meng Zhao refused to take it, only with reddened eyes and trembling hands reaching to grab my lapel. Those 3 months of testing weren't intentional. I was possessed. I shouldn't have doubted your sincerity. That marriage certificate I treasured like my life, that I wouldn't give up no matter how others coaxed or deceived me. The moment I let go, in the blink of an eye, it scattered like snowflakes swept away by wild winds, vanishing far into the distance. I turned around, unwilling to spare him another glance, unwilling to shed another tear for him. After the snow cleared came 3 sunny days in a row, and the tavern sign swayed in the wind once more. Auspicious for travel when stars hung in the sky, I packed my luggage and hired a carriage. Auspicious for moving counting the money I'd saved. It was just enough to go back and rent a secluded little courtyard. Auspicious for returning home here, I am a stranger in a strange land. With heartbreaking memories besides, so I shouldn't stay. Back then Meng Jiao didn't like me showing my face in public to sell wine, so fearing his displeasure, I learned the craft of brewing instead. I've already thought it through. Once I get back to Wuzhou, I can open my own tavern and live my own life. Zhao Qin helped me carry my luggage, but thinking of Meng Jiao, he looked troubled. Miss, what if he sees you are gone and won't rest until he finds you? I clutched my small bundle and thought about it seriously. Then just tell him I am dead too. The night fog was hazy, the air carrying a biting chill. Before leaving, I looked back at the brand new door lock, the newly raised courtyard wall. It would be a lie to say I wasn't sad. But my heart was too muddled. Even I hadn't figured things out yet. So I couldn't just nod in a daze and let down both my own heart and someone else's. I understood the logic, but I still really wanted to cry. I lowered my head and secretly wiped my tears. Suddenly I heard someone calling me from behind. Startled, I lifted the carriage curtain and looked back. It was Shen Henian. He hurried over through the night fog, mist clinging to his sleeves and brows. "Oh Lord Shen, why are you here?" He had rushed too quickly. Wiping the thin sweat from his forehead, he smiled. "I am also heading to Wuzhou. It happens to be on the way." Seeing my confusion, Shen Henian quickly said, "Half a year ago, I advised Meng Jiao to marry you. When I saw him go back to prepare for the wedding, most of my heart turned to ashes. 3 months later, I went to see my teacher. He said there was a vacancy in Wuzhou and submitted a memorial on my behalf. I didn't expect such a coincidence. Miss Aruo is from Wuzhou." But Zhao Qin showed no mercy. "It is not a coincidence at all. Lord Shen, you knew all along that Miss Aruo is from Wuzhou. You were clearly afraid Huizhou is too far to walk to even with a lantern, afraid she'd cry and have no one to borrow a handkerchief from." Having his thoughts exposed, Lord Shen looked a bit sheepish for the rest of the journey. Afraid he'd feel uncomfortable, I told him many things about Wuzhou's local customs. I mentioned that families in Wuzhou plant osmanthus and parasol trees in their courtyards when their homes are built. These trees grow alongside the descendants, blessing future generations. Lord Shen hurriedly asked, "Then does Miss Aruo prefer osmanthus or parasol trees?" I recalled things from the past and couldn't help feeling melancholic. When I was little, I liked osmanthus trees. Back then our home hadn't been taken over by others yet, and there was a very tall parasol tree in the courtyard. Back then, I always complained to Mother, saying it is better to plant osmanthus. You can admire it in autumn and use it for pastry fillings. But later when my family was ruined, and I truly drifted far from home, I actually often dreamed of that parasol tree. I dreamed of its branches growing tall and wide, of me hiding in my parents' arms, our whole family enjoying the cool shade under the tree, as if we had never left home, never been displaced. "Then we'll plant a parasol tree at home." Feeling that saying this was somewhat abrupt and presumptuous, Shen Henian tried to cover for himself. "What I mean is, if by any chance there is an opportunity, I'd plant parasol trees." The flustered Lord Shen before me actually made me find him amusing. So I deliberately sighed. But in the end, they're still not as good as osmanthus. Under the clear winter sunlight, the sky was like a piece of transparent crystal clear ice. As the carriage wheels rolled over the old accumulated snow, there came creaking sounds. The field ridges on both banks were an endless expanse of pure silver, and one could envision the next bountiful year of fragrant rice. How is it not as good as osmanthus? If you ask me, it is good in every way. In spring it shelters from rain, in summer it shades from sun, in autumn, it blocks the wind. In winter. I breathed on my hands to warm them, tilted my head and smiled at Shen Henian. "What about winter then? What is good about winter?" "Why did you stop talking?" Shen Henian smiled mischievously. Winter. Well, in winter the parasol branches are bare and long. One can wait for a little crybaby phoenix to come.